Okay, well, never mind. Today we're mainly just kind of do a lot of stuff in groups. So could you come to this page? You can either scan your QR code or you can go to this tiny link, bulink.hk/3056. I'm trying to pitch this idea to the e-learning committee. So maybe I should pitch the idea here, and in case you guys. Okay, so what is BU-Link? Well, basically, I got this idea from, first of all, from bit.ly.com, bit.ly, So the whole idea of Bitly is like you got a long URL and you can shorten it, right? But then if you want to customize that shortened URL, you have to pay. Okay. But now, if you look at some other universities such as PolyU, so if you go to polyu.hk, okay. So what you get is this PolyU URL shortener, which is only open probably to staff. But what they can do is you can put in a events link, whatever registration link, and then it can get shortened. You become like polyu.hk/whatever. You see what I mean? And then I found Hong Kong U has something similar as well. It's called go.hku.hk, which is the customized URL shortening service for Hong Kong U websites. And that's what I'm trying to do here, which is I create this thing called bulink.hk, the shortest I can get in terms of the web page, the domain name. So basically what you can do here is just create links, right? You can put a link here and you can put some, a random, it could be a random number, it could be a meaningful string or whatever, right? So, but then I found that actually, if you type in hkbu.hk, you got to our university website, which means actually the university owns this domain name, which is hkbu.hk. So if the university is willing to do it, we can also create a shortened URL like hkbu.hk/whatever. You see what I mean? So yeah, that's something I actually engaged the computer science students to do it. So it's pretty. Right now, I'm the only one using it, but if because if other colleagues would like to use it. All right, so can you join here? And once you are here, click on community engagement workshops. And then you will be able to find Friday morning section. And since you are here, could you respond to my comment, just say hi or whatever, so I know you are here. The same for students in the Zoom. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I will get this recording available, but I don't want to like announce this early because then everybody will just access the recording. That's not the intention here. Well, actually, as we are waiting, I'd like to also talk a little bit about this idea of phasing out email. Maybe I can hear what you have to say, you know, Ben, maybe you can also think about this. We can think about this together, which is, if you think about email, I think Ben and I, we are old enough to remember when email became popular, right? It was probably around 1990s. Yeah. Yeah, mid-90s. That's when the first sort of wave of internet, you know, even the Google was created a bit later, you know, search engine and everything. When we start using email, you know, that's kind of a really big thing, and it's really convenient, because before the email, you have to print out something, you have to write something, and then through snail mail, and especially like if it's an international mail, it can take 2 weeks or something, but now it's a few seconds. But if you think about email a little bit more, you find that email doesn't really change the way we communicate that much. The only thing it changes is the time it would take to exchange the document, but it's still exchanging documents. You see what I mean? So the paradigm doesn't really change. And actually, it creates a lot of inconvenience, in the sense that there's so many more messages circulating around, and a lot of people's mailbox is like 1,000 unread messages, you know? So in a way, email is kind of a mixed blessing, you know. It's a blessing, but then it's also a curse. It's a lot of more work to read so many messages. But then there's I think another technology came along which really changed these things, which is Google Docs, or any other similar what we call social editor. So the difference between email and social editor, can you see the difference there? Anyone? What's the difference between Google Docs and email? Yeah, in what way they are? Well, obviously they are different, but if you think about communication, what's the difference here? Right. But if you think about this is two different ways to communicate. The email is the same as snail mail, which is documents would go to people, right? So it's like from one point to another, the document will travel from one person to another. And that person maybe modify the document a little bit or whatever, they can then send the document back. So it's like documents coming back and forth between people. But what social editor is doing is they bring people together. You see what I mean? So it's no longer the documents traveling between different people, circulating among people. It's people come to the document and work on the document. You see what I mean? So that for me is a paradigm change. Okay. But unfortunately, even though we probably all agree that when people come together to work on a document, it's going to be much more convenient than sending documents around. You see what I mean? But still, these days, how many of us are using Google Docs or Microsoft Online to edit documents together? But if you think about everybody in this university, or if you look at the broader context, you know, businesses, governments, I don't know, 20 or 30% maybe. You see what I mean? So in a way, I think people are still not yet recognizing the needs to make this change from email, which is, even though it's electronic, it's still the old way of communicating. It's still sending documents around, to a relatively new way of working together, which is, instead of sending documents around, it's people come to the document and working together. You see what I mean? So it will become a process of creating a document and work on document together, and eventually the document can be polished and ready for the next stage. Okay, so that's the reason why what I'm suggesting here, again, still waiting for others to arrive, so it's can talk about something. Just yeah, sort of that. Okay, so what I'm saying here is that 20 years later or 30 years later, when people start writing the history of the internet or the history of modern communication, I think at that time, when people look back, they will feel like this is a transitional period. People are still trying to figure out how to best communicate. And people will look at email as really not a very good tool, but somehow people get stuck. Because people get stuck with the old way of thinking, which is if you want to communicate, you have to send a document around. You have to send a mail. But then the internet came along, so why don't we add an E before the mail? It become email. Yeah.
Yeah, Simon, that's just one particular function of email, because email is used for other things as well, which is like just notifying people or saying hello to people or making contact with people that you haven't met before. So
yeah.
So I mean, do you think there is still a place for email? or is there another way?
Yeah, well, I think what we need to do is to also look at some other alternatives, such as mobile phone or phone, right? Telephone.
Right.
And then also,
and
then the instant messages. Okay. So nowadays we have WhatsApp groups, right? And we have, sometimes we communicate through WhatsApp. So another interesting comparison would be between email and then instant messengers, right? Now, the good thing about instant messages is instant, but then it's also bad because it's so disruptive, right? It would disrupt our normal kind of workflow, right? So when you're working on something, suddenly there's a message came along, you have to respond immediately or whatever, especially WhatsApp, they get a double blue check. You see what I mean? So in a way, this is the bigger question in terms of what is the best way for people to communicate? But for me, I think email is, as I said earlier, if you look at the history of communication from snail mail to email, and now there's the Google Docs, which people can communicate coming together to the documents. I do feel that, and I think I want to make an argument that email should be a transitional technology. And eventually we will hopefully we will get rid of that.
What about levels of formality though? Because to me, email is a much more formal. I mean, I guess it is, reflective or of how we used to send letters in the past, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a WhatsApp message is much more kind of, informal, and you don't really have the space to write, what would be a formal introduction of yourself to whoever.
Yeah, I agree. But I think the degree of formality should be separated from the mode of delivery, right? So I mean, a piece of document can become more formal if the format is a bit different, right? With the letterhead, with the signature of the right person or seal or whatever, it could become a document with more authority or whatever.
I'm thinking more though of how, when you want to contact somebody for the first time, when you're introducing yourself, like if you want to, like, for example, if I want to contact a colleague at another university, I would say that, I mean, if I just received a WhatsApp from that person, I would feel somewhat, less.
Of course. Right, but imagine
this
is a WhatsApp message that will link you to a website or a document. You see what I mean? Or even a blockchain, using blockchain technology to verify that document. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So instead of just a couple of casual message, it could be a piece of document, and you can go somewhere to view that document.
No, I agree. I mean, we should always be searching for more effective ways of communication. Definitely. I don't see email as being
But I don't want to, but I don't want to stop there, because I think Google Docs, even though it's a very convenient tool, is not the state-of-the-art technology. The state-of-the-art technology is probably what we're looking at here, something similar to Notion.
So the Notion is this new
right. So
platform.
In order to better understand this technology, what we need to look at is the possibility, or probably the necessity, of engaging machines when it comes to processing the documents.
You mean AI?
Yes, because I think in this course I talk about this concept of machine readable quite a bit, right? So what does it mean for a machine to understand a piece of text? Well, in a way, even though we kind of tout the power of AI all the time, I don't think the AI nowadays is that smart. The AI can't really understand the text as we do, right? Because part of understanding the text is actually you have to bring in your own knowledge, your own understanding into the text, not just to process the text itself, which is something, machine, they don't necessarily have that capacity. But my point being, we might be able to have some kind of pseudo intelligence by adding tags to some text. For example, if you put Ben Rowlett next to Ben Rowlett, you put name. Okay, so you can tell the system Ben Rowlett is the name of somebody, right? If you put, some like email address, an email address, and next to it said email, then the machine would know this is email. So this kind of metadata can be very, very helpful when it comes to processing the documents. And I think Notion and some other technologies these days is kind of a step moving towards that. Because when you have a platform like this, you can start manipulating text. You can start adding more metadata to the text. So the communication and processing of the information can be assisted by the computer to some extent. All right. So I think that's
so this is what we're trying this out then in this
course. In a way, actually back in last year, I've got some teams of students looking at 1823. I don't know any of you tried this before. This is a complaint app. It's also a complaint hotline. So you can phone 1823 and you can contact this team. And one thing we did is we asked the efficiency office that is responsible for this hotline how they keep documents on how to deal with inquiries. Because this team is actually helping over 30 different government departments to handle inquiries. And I think that's a brilliant idea, right? Because instead of for the people to look up and try to find different department, all they have to do is just to call this one number or email to this one email address and then tell what they need, whatever question they have. And this team of people will be able to decide which department is responsible, but actually they manage to handle 99% of the inquiries without referring to the respective government departments. You see what I mean? So that, in a way, that's really kind of enhanced the efficiency greatly. Now, but the problem with what they're doing here is that because we asked them, we send an email and ask them, how do you manage all the information and documents on how to handle this inquiry? We would imagine it should be a huge database, right? Now we're talking about knowledge management. This team of people, they gain experience in terms of how to handle different inquiries. You see what I mean? But then they wrote back and said they use Microsoft Word. You see what I mean? They use Microsoft Word to keep the documents on how to deal with inquiries. Now, this is our suggestion. Okay, this bit it's published in the letter. We urge the efficiency office to abandon this 20th century technology and develop a new system to manage its information in machine-readable format following the standards adopted in the government's annual open data plans. The data can then be used to train algorithm for automatic processing of inquiries through machine learning. So that's the future, okay? That's the future. I hope, I don't know, 10 years or 20 years later, when we come back to this letter, you know, and, you know, it will become a reality, right? But we have to nudge the government. We have to push them. We have to pressure them to take actions, because otherwise they will be just happily doing whatever they feel comfortable doing instead of trying new things. So, right. So I hope that this is something we all need to think about, because nobody can escape from processing documents, right? Everybody every day will have to communicate. But I think nobody would disagree that email is not a very efficient way of doing that, right? But we just get stuck with email, right? Because we use snail mails for I don't know how many years, centuries. So now, and then suddenly we discover, oh, we can send message around by electronic means, you know, internet. So then we start, well, actually before that, telegraph is also, yeah, or fax, you see what I mean? So all these communication channels, as I said, it's just to add an E or add a kind of mode of delivery without changing fundamentally how we communicate. But I think that won't really kind of bring about huge or enormous progress in our society. You know, if we want kind of really great leap forward, so to speak, then we need to think about the new paradigms. You know, as I said, Google Docs social editor is one of the new paradigms. And now Notion is another. I'm not saying this particular company, but I mean, in general, this kinds of interactive platform would be particularly useful. Okay, so enough of kind of daydreaming.
Well, yeah. It seems that this is who we're going to get today. So thank you for coming, everybody. And today we've got a few things to sort out, which is basically just wrapping, well, not really wrapping things up, but moving towards wrapping things up, all right, for this course. So Simon is going to take you through, and I shall assist, our, what we call a community engagement workshop. It's not really a workshop though, right, Simon?
Yeah, it's more about walk through a couple of ideas
Right.
and instructions that you want to kind of follow along, and then I'll give you a bit time to work with your groups, group members. Right, so again, please come to this page first, make sure that everybody is here, okay? To come to this page, you can either scan the QR code, but if you scan the QR code, then you still have to, you know, send this link to your computer to access. Or another way to do it is type this tiny URL, bulink.hk/3056. So that's our course note. All right. So once you are here, then you can click on Community Engagement Workshop, which is something that we want to work on today. And you can see that we've got Friday morning section. I'd like to invite you to reply to my message. All right. So in order to reply to my message, you will have to click on, there's a comment somewhere here, and you have to log in with your HKBU email address. And if you haven't done that, you might want to do it now. And then you will be able to say hi and respond to. Okay, great. Thank you. Great. Okay, and also on this page, you will be able to see there's a database. Okay, so the database is where you want to look at so you can see the, the QR code. Okay, hold on. Right here. So if you go to the database, you will be able to see there are pages created for each team. There are a total of 24 teams. And I think so far we've got 5 letters published. I think if every team managed to publish the letter they plan to publish, we should get, hopefully by the end of this year, over 30 or even more letters published. And another quick kind of reminder is that if you go to our university library and search for South China Morning Post, you will come to this page and you will be able to have access to the e-paper version of the South China Morning Post. Okay, so yeah, so well, because if you have a letter under review, you might want to take a look and see whether your letter is published. But one thing that I noticed, which is quite interesting, is that they changed the layout of the letters section recently. Basically, it seems like the size for the letter section has shrunk a little bit.
Does that mean there's going to be they're publishing fewer letters every day?
It seems to be the case, or shorter. You see, they still got one featured letter at the top here, and with the font bolded, and then 3 more shorter letters. Yeah. So if you have a lot to say, then you can aim to write a 400 words letter like the featured one. But my recommendation would be try to write something around 200 words or something, 200 something. So yeah, which made the October 30th one published by one of 2 students taking this course, probably the last featured letter with the blue background. You see what I mean? So this is the one with the blue background, you know, as a feature letter, but it seems like this feature is gone. So it's kind of a different. You see, this is the older layout. The whole page, the letter column would occupy a much more space along with the cartoon, right? The old layout, but now it's a little bit different. So we don't know. Okay, so yeah, let me show you the database again, because I want to make sure that each team, including all the Friday morning team, please do log into your respective page, like HKPL Neura, right? Can you access the page? Okay. Right, because if you log in, then it won't be your email address, it will be your name. Okay, and then you can put your name here, you know, add somebody. You see what I mean? Okay, so why don't you just go ahead and and try to access your page. Everybody here, if you are watching the video, you should come to this database page from community engagement workshop. And from community engagement workshop, you can see the database here. Okay. So for those in the Zoom, do you need any help? Sharon, Yuri, Sean? Okay. So I do, well, Ben and I, we put together some slides here, which you should be able to access through community engagement workshops here, right? So there's some slides here, okay? Now, just a little bit of housekeeping. Today we're doing this workshop, and then next week, it's going to be a whole section meeting again for EDSM, but for Friday morning section, next week, we're going to do a field trip, all right? So for field trip, since you are here, maybe I'd like to, again, so if you come back to this page, there's the field trip page. So maybe I just take a minute to check and see how many of you will join. Basically, everybody should join unless you have some really good reason for not joining. So maybe I will just start. Of course, I mean, for virtual exchange students, you won't be able to join. But for most of you, let's start with Seed. You can join, right? Okay, good. Nurila? Yeah. Okay, sorry. We want to check and make sure that everybody can join. And Chen Miu? Yeah, okay, no problem. Chen Wai Kit? You cannot? You have, okay, so maybe you can just let us know a bit later, yeah, the reason. Okay, Zheng Long Wei? Zheng Man Yi? Zhang Oi Lem, you can join, right? Laura, no problem. No problem. You're joining, right? Great. Call Ho Yin. Ho Yin. Lai Chiu Ki, you can join, right? Leung Ho Yi. Hun Wei Ying, you can join, right? Thanks. Senska? Okay, great, thanks. And Omyu? Okay, good. And Hanky? Zhixian? Hui Shun? I think Shun is on Zoom, right? Okay, good, thanks. Okay, and Cam Chun? Okay, good. And Kichi? Is Kichi here? Wang Ki-men? Kwon Yut? Hoi Hin? Yao Man-ting? Okay. Yi Nga-san? You can join, right? Okay, good. Yu Che-ying? Yu Ting-wei? Zhang Yufei? You can join. Okay, good. And Zhonghao? Zhonghao here. Okay, so for those of you who are not here today, maybe we can follow up.
Simon, I just have to. Are the students who are not here today? Are they disappeared students, or are they here? Are they working on projects?
I think they are. We just have to kind of, because I think some of them, I don't know, maybe they're not aware today is the whole section class or something.
They didn't check their email.
Yeah, well, see email. They
they
got like over 1,000 unread message. Okay. Anyway, we have to, but I think the reason why I need to know how many people exactly will join is because they got a coach for us, but that coach can only hold about 20 or something people. So if we have over that number, then we have to do it twice. So the coach will have, so we have to kind of split into 2 groups and then take turn to write on the coach. And also when we go back to the MTR station, but it's only about 10 minutes ride, so not a big deal. And I promise you, it's going to be pretty good field trip. You will see some pretty high-tech stuff.
Simon, can I just clarify that you're going to send out some important information about where to meet and what time to meet?
Hold on. Well, actually, if you go to this field trip here, we are going to meet next Friday, probably a few minutes before 9:30.
All right.
Because the coach will pick us up at the Hanghao MTR station.
And Hanghao MTR station, which line is that?
It's Zhangguan-o.
Zhangguan-o. Okay.
Yeah. I need to check the exit, which exit, but yeah, I will double check. But it's next Friday. All right. So next Friday morning we're going to be in Zhangguan-o. And I think it's going to be about 2 hours. So around 11:30 something, the coach will send us back to Zhangguan-o MTR, Hanghao MTR station, so we can take a ride back to Kowloon Tong. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, if you have a 12:30 class that on Friday, maybe that could be a reason for you not to come.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I think you should join us. I mean, you may have to rise early that day because you have to show up in Hengho MTR station at 9:30. Let me see if I can find some picture. I don't think this field trip is kind of publicly open. I got to know them because I was doing another project, and that staff member was nice enough to phone me, and we had a phone conversation when I was investigating their project, and then they offer us this field trip. But then eventually I didn't proceed with the project. But now we've got this really nice opportunity. Yeah, so if you want to look at some background information, it's all here. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any picture. But let me yep. But I think it's pretty good. You know, when we first did this last, is this the last November or something? Anyway, we were actually taken aback. We were surprised because we thought it's something like a landfill size. You know, it's all the trash and everything, but it's actually construction waste. So it's all rocks. So there's no like food waste or anything smelly. Okay. Yeah, it's not even dirty. It's all just construction waste, but then it's pretty high tech. They've got all this sensor and everything to monitor all the traffic in and out to ensure the worker safety. So you will be able to see a control room with all the high tech gadgets and some VR training session, all that. Okay, so no more spoilers, but it should be fun. It should be fun. Okay. All right, so that's that. So the EDSM workshop would be, for our group, would be a little bit later, would be the week after. So it's going to be November 25th. So that's the EDSM workshop. All right. Okay, so community engagement. Let me just say a few words about the community, and maybe Ben, you can add, and if you have any comments, feel free. Classmates, students taking this course. Now, near the end of the semester, I think much more what this course is about, right? If other students ask you what this course is about, how would you respond, right? So this course is about citizenship, right? Think about this notion of citizen. What makes us citizen? Well, from an economic point of view, citizenship is about a contract between members of society and the government, right? The government, how can government operate? How can government exist? It's because of us. We pay money. Whether you are willing or not, you have to pay tax. Think about this idea. It's pretty crazy, right? All the adults work really hard to earn money, but then at the end of each year, you get a bill from the government and ask you to pay up, 10% or something of your hard-earned money to them. For what? Right? So that kind of relationship being made, in return for all the tax money that we pay, we expect transparency. Okay, so we want to know how you, the government staff, spend our money, right? And that's what Code on Access to Information is all about. That's why we, as ordinary people, as nobody, can write to all these different government department and bureau and ask questions, almost like a legislative council members. If you go to some of the web page, the government web page, you see the lawmakers would also do pretty much the same thing as we do, raise questions. And then the secretary of whatever bureau or the department head, they will have to write in response, answer the questions of the lawmakers. And we are doing pretty much the same. And sometimes, you see those web pages, the government, when they answer the lawmakers' questions, they also dodge the questions all the time. They don't always give very good answers. And for us, we have built some kind of skills and experience to make sure that they take our questions seriously. All right. So I think in a way, this is what this course is about, which is empower people to exercise our rights as citizens. Even though every member of Hong Kong society has this right, we all as taxpayers, we pay tax in different ways. We have the right to ensure the government to be transparent, but not everybody is educated enough to exercise that right, unfortunately. But anyone who take this course, I hope you can walk away from this course and you will feel much more confident about asking the government for information. Okay. And once we can ensure the transparency of the government to some extent, I'm not saying that they're transparent, 100%, of course, maybe 20% or 30% anyway. At least we make some attempts. And then the next step is we can then critically review the government programs. We will be able to say, hey, you're not really doing a good job, right? And we can say that aloud because at least for now, we can still express our viewpoints by writing letters in the South China Morning Post, right? So we still have some degree of expression of freedom of expression, right? So that's the first community we're talking about here. And you can see that from time to time, writing letter is really about connecting with other people, which is why I always encourage you to, go to this page every day and do read a little bit. And sometimes when I read a letter from another person, sometimes I see familiar names. I even reach out to them, right? Like Neil Dunn, recently. Remember that rain shelter case, right? So in a way, writing letter is all about facilitate the formation of that community, right? So like this one, I was able to respond to a letter by Neil Dunn, and then Neil Dunn again write another letter in response to mine, or basically following up on this issue. And I think that's what this is all about, right? We want to engage more people in the community and try to hold the government to account when they're not doing a very good job. And sometimes if you hold a high standard, you can always find some room for improvement for different government department bureaus. Do you have anything to add to this? Ben, do you have anything to add?
Not particularly, Simon, but I do think that we need to reflect a lot more on what we mean by citizenship and being a citizen. What is a role? How do we communicate our citizenship? How do we actually, actively become, engaged members of society? So this is just one permutation, obviously, in this course, right? There are other things that could quite equally be about citizenship, but yeah, I think it's something we all have to reflect on. So that's what I wanted to say.
Well, I guess to be critical, we should be critical of the government's programs and policy, but then we also need to be critical of what we are doing as well. I mean, there could be another way to think about this. People may say we're just troublemakers. Right, we are disrupting,
and people have said that.
People may say, "Hey, we are troublemakers, and all you are doing is just causing trouble to the government staff, and you are even wasting the taxpayers' money." Right? Because whenever you write an email to a government department or bureau, they will have to engage some staff to respond to your questions. Right? That's like extra cost, human resources. Unfortunately, nowadays they've been quite forthcoming in one way or another. Not always, but at least they respond to our questions. I mean, they can start charging us. They can say, hey, to answer a question is going to be how many hours of work on my team. So I'm going to start charging you 200 Hong Kong dollars an hour. You see what I mean? But of course, as far as I remember, when the Code on Access to Information was first introduced, the government set aside some money for different government departments and bureaus to actually handle this kind of request.
Right.
So in a way, we need to be, as Ben said, we have to be reflective. We have to be critical on what we are doing as well. Whether or not we are really creating value for the society, or we're just wasting everybody's time. I hope we are creating some value.
This is where the key is research as well. Do your homework. Look into something, find out about it, because then you have a leg to stand on.
Yep.
As you know, the expression goes. Yeah, you have good reason for contacting the government to find out more about something, because you're not satisfied. You've done the research, you found out as much as you could about something, but then, you know, that gives you the grounds for inquiring further.
Right. Yeah. So that brings very nicely to the next point I want to make, which is when we talk about community engagement, we also want to connect with a different community here, which is a smaller circle of people, but this group of people have great potential to create value for the society. That's the university researchers. Okay. So if you think about university researchers, and basically most of the teachers in this university that you got a chance to work with, you learn from, we are researchers. Okay, so teaching is part of our job. Actually, for academic staff, it's only, I don't know, 50% of the work. The other 50% for the academic staff like Ben is to do research, is to publish papers, to create new knowledge, right?
50%.
But the problem with this kind of research is that it's highly theoretical a lot of times, which may or may not have practical implications or value or immediate value for the society. So for us as university students, we got a chance to think about how this research work can be translated into something more practical, more useful for our society. So I think that's also something we should try to do in this course. But of course, I have to be honest, you know, in this area, we haven't done enough. I think we should do more, which is why I would encourage each project team to think about what academic literature or academic studies that have been done or available regarding the issue or topic that you are working on, and see whether there's any research insights that might be useful or inspiring to your project. Okay, and you should also consider how you might be able to connect with some researchers in this area, whether they are from this university or beyond, or any other university around the world, because these days, you know, most of people are just a few emails away. I mean, they don't necessarily respond to your email, but I think scholars tend to be quite responsive if you write to them about their research, you know, that they usually are quite happy to share their views. So do reach out and do look at who are the researchers or scholars that might be able to give you some advice. Okay, so researchers would be another group of people we want to connect with. And then there will be concern groups. There are people who are concerned with particular issues, environment, public health, or any other like minority groups, you know, sexual minority, and there are different NGOs in Hong Kong. You know, I think there's still room for them to operate, to advance their courses, which is why I would encourage you to, again, think about how you might be able to connect with different NGOs. If you look at our Taking a Stand seminar, you will be able to see that we were able to line up a range of speakers. Most of them have got some NGO backgrounds, like Lisa, Daisy as well. She runs an NGO. Last semester, we got quite a number of people who advocates for prisoners' welfare.
That was really interesting.
And etc. So my point being, this is great opportunity for us to connect with NGO, and I would encourage you to do the same, to think about how your work can be hopefully beneficial for the NGOs, and also NGOs can give you more advice or provide you with more resources, basically to explore different kind of collaborative partnerships, right? And future students as well, because most of the students taking this course start a new project, but as you can see, we've already got over 200 letters published, so there's quite a number of projects that's already been initiated. So in the future semester, I will start encouraging more students to pick up ideas from this letter collection to continue working on these projects rather than start new projects. So I'd like to ask you for a favor, which is whatever project you are working on, in addition to publishing the letters in SMP, I hope you can also prepare some documents and information for anyone who might be interested in, continuing working on this project. So that's why in the community engagement portfolio, there's some sections where you can, aggregate and curate all the information that you have collected through this project. So hopefully future students will be able to benefit from your work. Okay. And finally, there's the members of the public in general, which again, we have to engage in order to increase their awareness, and hopefully we can create more pressure for the government. So that's kind of the different communities we want to connect, we want to engage through our efforts. And that's the kind of community engagement portfolio which you need to build. So this is a slide from our week 1. Basically, this is kind of the approximate proportion when it comes to grading. When you look at how you engage the government, the legislative council, or maybe the NGOs, want to look at your efforts to write for the public, and also do a little bit multimodal writing, create a poster, and engage through a social media campaign, right? Okay, I think we have talked about Notion earlier, so I skip these slides. So basically, you want to prepare your portfolios as a team in the Notion page, and once the whole page is ready, you can then export it as a PDF. Okay, and then you can submit it through Moodle. I will create a link. All right. And any question so far about the community engagement portfolio?
Simon, might I just add that you've done the work for this already, right? You've done the research. You've done, well, I mean, you're in the process of writing your letters and getting them sent off. So really, it's a matter of just curating all that work, okay, into a portfolio that shows what you've accomplished during your projects.
Right. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just to walk through a couple of different sections of this portfolio. I can pick any of this as an example, maybe transitional housing one. Okay, and right, so all the team members are here, and this is the section where we're going to tag all the members, but we want to make sure that you log in, so I see your name. Okay, so and you can also do that, and you can change your status as in progress. And once it is done, you can change it to done. All right. And this is what I mean by metadata, because for this kind of data, then it's somewhat machine readable. The machine would know whether this document is done or in progress. Okay. I wouldn't call this AI. It's pseudo AI, but it's convenient, right? Okay. Great. So, deleted user. That's interesting. All right. So you see that there's the table of content here. Overview of the project, engage the government, and then writing for the public, and then infographics. And then later on, the last week of this course, we're going to come together again in this classroom, and then we will invite each team to present your portfolio. Okay, so kind of bring the closure to this course. And you see the red box here, right? So there's the red border showing. So this is where you don't want to edit this page, okay? Because this is where I'm going to edit, and I might add something here. But feel free to add comment, okay? So put any question you may have, and you can tag me or tag Ben, right? So and then add a comment, something like that. But remember, if you add a comment here, or the comment will show up in other people's portfolio as well, because this is a box of text that's being synchronized across different pages. So yeah, just be careful what you say. All right. All right. So again, the red box is where you can find some instructions, tips, even video notes. I created video notes here. You can play the video. I might add more video notes. Another video notes here. Okay.
Simon, I've noticed that every time you make a change, we get an email notifying us of the change being made.
The Notion?
Yes.
Oh,
which could be a little bit.
Yeah, you should unsubscribe that.
Okay,
you should change the setting, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry about that, but
no, that's
you
fine.
might want
just
right. So maybe we should take a 5 minutes break, and we'll come back, and we can start. Basically, each team can work on the portfolio. Okay, do let me know if you have any questions.
Simon, for the infographic, I think you sent out already a link for Canva, right?
Yep.
So I'm not sure if all of you have had experience using Canva. It's pretty simple to use. But there's examples of infographics that Simon's added to the Notion page, right?
Yeah.
So you can kind of get an idea. They don't have to be overcomplicated, visually just effective, and they can be used to kind of visually represent what your project's about, or multimodally present.
Yep. Right. So if you come to here, infographics and multimodal, you see the sample posters from students in the past, so you can get a sense of, what your poster would look like. Too large. Okay, so maybe you have to, yeah. All right. So I'm using transitional housing page as an example, but it's the same for the rest of the teams as well. Now for the overview of the project, that's basically a short summary, right? I'm talking about around 100 words or something to give the overview, right? So anyone who come to this page, this is the first thing they will see. And yeah, so just write a few words. You can probably look at the letter draft that you are working on, because I think it's always interesting to think about how you should start an essay, right? Where to begin your discussion. How are you going to establish some kind of relationship with your readers? Obviously, you don't want to say anything controversial up front. Right? You want to say something that's more agreeable, some kind of common ground, some kind of background that your readers would find more familiar and not so contentious. All right. So and also in the overview part, you want to summarize your main messages, right? The argument. So you know, so whoever is reading this will know what this is about. And for engage the government, the legislative council, and the NGO part, one section is just to present all the information you've got from the government. And in fact, my suggestion is to create a Notion page to share the government replies. And I made a video, a short video to discuss that. So you can refer to that video. And basically what you have to do, like I'm in the transitional housing page here. So what you can do is just type @ and then you can say info from the government. And then you can basically create a new page, sub page under this page. And once you are here, yeah.
So that means that students can just create a PDF that has their request on their initial request, and then the government responds, and they can create that as a new page that can be linked to their portfolio.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay,
if you type / and PDF, and you will be able to embed a PDF. And then you can upload the PDF. Okay, so once you upload the PDF, then you can start writing more text here. You can write some excerpts from PDF and write explanation and everything. Because this is a page of the community engagement portfolio. So this page is already anyone with link can comment. So what you can do later is if you put some notes, right, of something, you can actually create a link to the blog, and then you can insert the link to your SCMP letter submission. So the editor can come straight to where they can find the supporting information. See what I mean?
Okay.
Right. So that would be something to basically think about. Okay. Now, that's interesting. It seems like there's the same box here.
Oh,
okay. Never mind. Now this part I'd like you to spend a bit time on, which is I'd like you to fill in the 2 tables, right? This table is basically, I want you to summarize whatever insights that you have gained from communicating with the government.
What happens if you haven't got any insights?
Yeah, well, if there's no insights, then see, the thing is, remember, if the government does not have the information, okay, if the government confirms in writing it does not have some information, that in itself could be a piece of information.
That's
right?
an insight.
Yeah, that could be an insight, which means, you know, the government is not even collecting that information. If you can make the argument that, you know, that information would be useful, then you can say, you know, the government should have collected the information. So that's what we call information gathering government argument, which we make all the time. But of course, if you feel like communicating with the government is not that useful, then perhaps you can look at this question instead. Hopefully you can still say something here, but if you really have nothing to say here, please jump to this question, which is, in what ways could the government have done better in answering your questions? I really hope each team can work on this, because I'm starting to I want to do some review of each department or bureau that we've been communicating with. In fact, I want to start with Education Bureau, because it seems like the Education Bureau is not doing a very good job when it comes to answering our.
I don't know. I would beg to differ a little bit, Simon. They answer, and they answer in quite a lot of detail.
Which project are you working on?
Well, this project on the sex education framework, and in previous ones, we you know, my groups have written to the EDB, and they do provide pretty comprehensive information,
right?
In many ways, but I mean, I can share with you the previous.
Yeah, well,
if you wish.
One thing you need to remember is that Education Bureau is a huge organization, you know, so there's different teams, different sections. In fact, you can go to government directory to see the whole hierarchy of Education Bureau. So it might be just we're dealing with different sections. Yeah, we're dealing with different sections. You see, there's all this different branch, under branch there's division, under division there's section and teams. So yeah, it can vary greatly from team to team, from section to section. But my point is, after teaching these courses for this is the 5th semester, I think it's time for us to kind of take stock on what we have done regarding, you know, this different departments and bureaus, and in a way, I think we need to be more explicit about our expectations. Maybe upfront, we should tell this whoever is dealing our request that we are pretty serious about our request. Please do not just kind of, and please do take it seriously. So because sometimes they procrastinate, and they delay the response beyond the 21 days. That's kind of a nightmare for us, because all the project teams need to get the job done.
Time sensitive.
It's a bit time sensitive. So I have to write to them again, explain, you know, even you cannot answer all the questions, you should at least give us something, right? Instead of wait until another like 7 weeks, right? So that's way too long. So please do think about, kind of just assess the government's performance, or the way they handle our applications from the perspective of a citizens, as a taxpayers, as a customers, so to speak, and do write some comments, recommendations, and begin with the facts and observation, and then some comments and recommendation. So I will look into the cases, and if there are some bureaus or departments that not doing a good job, then we'll follow up. Okay. But of course, if you feel like you could have done better, when you write your questions or whatever, then feel free to share your experience as well. And I think one thing that we should tell future students is that we should avoid asking too many questions in one email, in one request, because then you will give them the excuse to delay. And then they can say, oh, there's so many questions, you know, we need more time. And then they can easily just extend to 7 weeks, 9 weeks, 7 weeks, which is too long. So perhaps we should start saying, okay, whenever you have more than 5 questions, you should start a new letter. Maybe send a request from a different person so that it will be treated as a different or separate application. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can just add to that. I mean, what Simon's saying here is this course is always evolving. We learn through actually doing this course. And so having the insights from students working on the projects is very, very useful for us to really kind of fine tune our understanding of how the process works and how we can do it better. So those reflections are important.
Right. So I'd like to give you 5 minutes, just very quickly jot down a few notes about these 2 tables. All right, work with your teams and make sure that you start writing a little bit. I don't know if I have time to invite you to discuss, but at least you should start working. Okay, please do work on this a bit, and then maybe for about 5 minutes, and then we can move on. Well, bully is not the right word. It's more about yeah, make sure that they do what they are supposed to do. Because if they are just doing things as a private organization, then we can't really ask them to do anything. But whenever they're spending public money, they're supposed to be transparent.
EDB event tomorrow, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's the school in Block 3. So if you want any contacts, I do know a few people there actually.
Okay, cool. You see, one thing that I find quite interesting is what kind of relationship you want to develop with these people. I mean, the government staff. In a way, most of the people or the staff in the government departmental bureaus, they just deal with our inquiries in a kind of official way, so to speak, right? So they just you email to them, they write back, okay? But from time to time, you might run into some people who are kind of dealing with us in a different way. For example, recently, I've got one team working on esports, right? And what we found is that a couple of years ago, the government allocated about 100 million Hong Kong dollars to Cyberport and for them to promote esports. So we wrote to, actually at the beginning, I don't know which department or bureau is responsible for this. So we actually wrote to the chief executive office and asked them, which department or bureau is responsible for this scheme, this sponsorship scheme. And we CC the Cyberport. And even before the chief executive office did wrote back and said, it's the innovation and technology bureau. So they asked the innovation technology bureau to follow up and respond. But then the esports team at Cyberport actually wrote back and says, we're happy to offer information, blah, blah, blah. But then they also invited us to meet with them and offer us a tour to the Cyberport with all the esports facility and everything. At the time, I have mixed feeling about going over because, first of all, it's quite time consuming. You have to spend a whole morning over there, whatever. But of course, it would be good experience for students, right? The two students working on the project. So eventually, we went, okay, and they're all very, very friendly. They show us around and answer all the questions. But once we get that things going, with all the meeting and everything, you don't really want to go back and say, hey, I still got all these questions. You have to answer the question. You see what I mean? So in a way, you establish better relationship with these people, right? But then at the same time, you don't have that being kind of distance or kind of a more cold relationship that you can go after them for all the information or data that you're asking for. So
sorry, Simon? Yeah, so what you're saying is basically, if you do build a relationship with a government representative or whatever, then it's much harder to criticize them.
In a way, it is, right? Because you can't get the best of the both worlds, right?
Right.
If you want to get you build a better like in the esports team. Actually, the manager got we had a WhatsApp connection, right? I can send him WhatsApp message, so I might be able to get some connections through him with people doing like esports to support dementia patients. You see what I mean? So that kind of opportunities, and of course through that visit, we are able to learn a lot more about this whole topic relative to just writing email. So in a way, I think this kind of opportunity would be good. But then you have to be very cautious about this, because then you lose the opportunity to play the bad guy, to go after somebody for information that would make them embarrass them, basically. Another example is we actually meet with, well, this is the lawmaker meeting. We also meet with the transport department. I don't know whether we can show this picture here. Yeah, so come on. Anyway, another example is I had a meeting with the transport department staff with two students. But then later on, again, for that project, we didn't follow up, ask more questions. So you see there's some chemistry there. You see what I mean? Yeah. But it's quite interesting to think about. There are always different ways to approach these people, and you can get different outcomes as a result. All right. Okay, so we've got some info here. That's good. Now, I want to very briefly talk about engaging the Legislative Council. Well, Legislative Council, or the so-called lawmaking body of Hong Kong, is what we call the sort of the three branches of the government, right? There's the executive, like all the bureaus and departments that we deal with. And then there's a legislative, that's Legislative Council to make the law. And then there's the court, which is to interpret the law. So this is the so-called separation of power. Even though I think recently, the Chinese government and also some high-ranking people in Hong Kong, they say separation of power is not applicable in Hong Kong, which I find a bit puzzling. But I think supposedly the Legislative Council should monitor the executive branch of the government and to represent the people of Hong Kong and to hold the government accountable, right? And among other things they do is they have to pass and endorse all the budget requests, all the funding requests, okay? Now, the Legislative Council, unfortunately these days, all the candidates for the Legislative Council have to be screened by the government. As a result, a lot of traditionally pro-democratic members are not in the council anymore. So we don't really know to what extent these people can still play their roles to kind of pressure the government, right? But I guess we should still try. And one thing I'd like to share with you is there are different panels or committees or even subcommittees. I think I should say panels and subcommittees within the Legislative Council. And basically, you will be able to see that all these panels are corresponding to different bureaus, right? There's the Mainland and Constitutional Affairs Bureau, so there's the panel on constitutional affairs. There's the Development Bureau, so there's a panel on this development. Education Bureau, panel on education, all right? So what you should do is to identify the panel that's relevant to your project, okay? Which should be fairly straightforward, because whoever, whatever department or bureau that you have been communicating for your project, you just look it up and find which bureau is relevant, and then you should be able to find a panel, okay? Now, once you find a panel, okay, for example, Transitional Housing Group, right? So obviously you should work with panel on housing. And there might be some subcommittee which you want to connect with. I don't know whether this committee is relevant to your project, but you can consider that. But if you go to the panel on housing, you will be able to look at who are on this panel. So there's 19 members on this panel. Okay, so you can go through all the list here. And then there's another place you should go. It's called Legislative Council redress system. Okay, so I should give you this link. Now, the redress system is a mechanism under the Legislative Council which you can file complaints. Okay, and every week there are a team of lawmakers, about 9 of them. Okay, so next week, well, actually this week, sorry, this week, there are 9 members here. And then next week, another 9 members. So every week you got about 9 members on duty. So you can compare these 2 lists. One is lawmakers on the panel on whatever topics that you are interested in, and also the lawmaker who are on duty. And hopefully you will be able to find 1 or 2 lawmakers who are on both lists. And those are the people you might want to contact if you want to have a meeting with them. Now, I showed this page earlier, which is in the past, I did arrange quite a number of meetings with the Legislative Council members, including Alice Mack. She's now one of the secretary. Oh, actually, this is the meeting with the Transport Department Bureau. This is from the MPFA. So if your team feels that you have a pretty important argument you want to present to the Legislative Council member, you can try to request a meeting. Okay, if you need more information, I can show you, I can present, I can tell you more. And alternatively, if you feel like going over to the Legislative Council complex in Central is too much work, or you don't really have the time to do it, then the alternative option here is just to prepare a document or report or whatever and send it to that panel, okay, of the Legislative Council. And you can request your document to be uploaded to the website of the Legislative Council. Okay, I can give you some examples a bit later. But for now, I'd like you to consider what you would like to do. Okay, so there are 2 ways to engage. One is to set up a meeting with the duty roster member, and another way is to send a report. I think the second one would be something I would expect all the project teams to do, right? Because once you got a argumentative research paper, you should polish it and then send it to the Legislative Council. But for the first one, you can decide whether you want to set up a meeting. I mean, it could be a good experience, but I have to be honest, you know, you don't really expect that much from that meeting, other than, you know, the fact that you got a chance to meet with the lawmaker, because I don't think they are there to really kind of follow up on the issues very seriously. It's more about it's just there to meet the people, you know. But I don't want to be too cynical, so I think you should still try and see if I mean different lawmakers would be different. I remember I had that meeting with Alice Mack, and she was actually quite helpful. She brought up the issue to the chief executive in the meeting, in the legislative council meeting. So she was actually helpful. But the more recent meeting I had with another lawmaker talking about carbon neutrality, he was like, he has no idea what he's talking about, basically. And Regina, she's quite helpful as well. So I mean, it really depends on the legislative council members as well. Anyway, please do consider what you'd like to do, and so here you can discuss your plan and explain your choice very briefly. Really not that much to write. Okay. Well, I guess the next thing I'd like to discuss is, well, actually there's quite a number of things you need to do, but it's quite self-explanatory, so I just skip over. But I do want to take this opportunity to invite you to register and create your LinkedIn account, and then you can respond to the post from the Language Center right here, which I have already shared through the WhatsApp group. So what I'd like you to do now is basically, if you haven't established your LinkedIn account, I would strongly encourage you to do that. And once you are here, then you can like or whatever, celebrate our post, and you can leave a message. You see what I mean? I think this number is not correct. I have to edit. But basically, this is how we're going to engage people through social media. So please take your time and to work on the linking a little bit. And I want to share with you a bit of my personal experience of using LinkedIn. In fact, I connect with quite a number of people through LinkedIn. For example, Regina Yip, I connect with Mrs. Yip through LinkedIn. Okay. And once I connect with her through LinkedIn, I send messages with her, and then I email her. That's how we set up a meeting. I also connected with LinkedIn through not Emily. I connect her through email. This is my high school buddy, and Natalie. I connect with Natalie through LinkedIn, and Brian as well. So you see, LinkedIn is very useful. So I would encourage you to set up a LinkedIn account and then start to be more active on social media, in LinkedIn. And yeah, so this is a good time for you to maybe start work using LinkedIn and also create a post about your project. You can share the post, share the link through our WhatsApp group, and we can start like one another's posts. Yeah. I would encourage each team to do. Yeah, once it's published. And if you look at the Right. So I put together this tips here for linking engagement. So if you look at this page here from your community engagement portfolio, you can see that actually there are different courses from LinkedIn Learning, and as BU students, you can access to BU Learning. And then Career Services also put together a page for LinkedIn Learning that you can check out. There are courses in LinkedIn Learning on how to use LinkedIn. Again, you can check out. I mean, November is very busy for everyone, so but just keep this in mind. The Language Center has got a project promoting LinkedIn Learning, so these are all there. And when you set up a LinkedIn profile, please do include your picture because that will be very helpful. And there's an example post for sharing an SCMP letter right here. So this is from TC Lee, and she could be our next speaker, you know. And also she wrote a letter to the SMP. And you can see she's got a pretty long post here, right? And then there's the attachment, a picture of the letter. I mean, she can easily also share a link, but she put the picture. Okay, so I think this might be. I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to look at a sample post, here we go. Yeah, I think I need to start checking with the teams on the Friday morning session, because some teams are not here. So clinical waste team is, how many of you are here? Just two of you? Okay, so the other two I need to check. So Enid is here, right? Enid and Annie. Is it right? Okay, so Ho In and Sam, I need to talk to them. And emergency alert system, two of you are here. Okay, good. And climate disaster team. Anyone here? Climate disaster team. Oh, Sean is here, yeah. But anyone else? So Linda and Kichi not here. And HKPL team, only Nura is here. What about the other two students? Are they coming? That's interesting. Yeah, we're nearly finished. Right. And I think James Zhong is working with the other team. So he's supposed to be joining the meeting today. And heritage team, how many of you are here? Maybe Ben, you can follow up with them. Oh, good. Okay, are here. Okay. And transitional housing team all here. Good. How about Leave Home Safe team? And this here. Okay. Okay. All right. Just maybe follow up later then. Great. Yeah. See, the thing is, the way we run this course, there's a lot of like small group meetings and a little bit of flipped classroom. So it's really important for students to be somewhat proactive and to kind of take responsibility, because otherwise, we can't really kind of go after every team every week, right? So it's okay. So I hope we can all have some linking messages, and please do share your post through the WhatsApp group, and also you can add a comment to this post, and then we can like each other's messages and all that. All right. Now one last thing. I don't want to keep you for too long, but one last thing, I guess. For the rest of the time, I just let you work on this as a team. Is the poster. Okay, so as you can see in your page as well, there's this link. Through the link, you can join the Canva team. And I think once you join the Canva team, you will be able to use some of the premium features of Canva without paying, okay? Because we are having this education account, right? We got a privilege as a university teacher or student. So do join, sign up for Canva through this link. It's quite user friendly. I mean, personally, I'm not very skillful in using Canva, but there are 2 videos here. I was making this video with one of my students, and he was speaking Mandarin in the video, but I interpret for him, so you can watch these 2 videos to get a sense of how do you make a poster. And the sample posters, if you look at here, the sample poster from the students in the past. So please do take your time now to create the poster, and you can share. In fact, you can reply. You can reply here to share the Canva link. You can invite me or Ben to edit or at least comment on your Canva design. And once you finish that, you can share the poster here. So that might be something. And there's also the option of add a cover. Add a cover here. So you might consider come up with some kind of cover for your page as well. Yeah. So there's different ways to.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean you could even find some cover from the internet as well. So I guess you can just start working on your poster, right? Any questions?
May I just add, Simon, that the poster will be used in the final class of the semester. As you talk about your projects, the poster will be your visual aid, as it were. Okay? Yeah.
Right. So the last week of this course, Ben and I, we're going to host a presentation session. Okay. So every team can spend, I don't know, 5 minutes or something to just present your portfolio. Yeah.
And it's a 3-line whip. Everybody will need to be here for this particular event.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not an assessed task, I have to say. So, you can be pretty casual about your presentation. Just talk about your project. But we want everybody to be here so we can engage with you and ask questions about what you did.
We do have a section here where Ben and I, we can add some comments and
this
other.
Sorry, Simon.
Yeah, go ahead.
This may well be where we can give you our feedback on your community engagement portfolio. Yeah. Okay. We won't give you your grade here because it'll be publicly available, but we can at least give you some feedback.
And please do invite other students to add comments here as well, so we can have a bit more interaction.
Yeah, perhaps we can do that in the final class.
Yeah.
Once you presented. So is everybody clear about what needs to be done in the following weeks? Yeah, we've only got 3 weeks left. Okay. We're out and about next week. Then we're going to have another workshop on your argumentative essays. And then then the final week, you'll be talking about your projects to us and other students. Then you have a week to get everything polished off and then submitted for the grading. Okay. Have I forgotten anything, Simon? All sounds good. But yeah, please do ask, if you have any questions. So I know that we are asking quite a lot of you in some ways in order to get this stuff together. But as I said before, this is really, you have this already. It's just a matter of repackaging it in a way that allows us to see it as a whole project, right? Rather than just bits and pieces here and there.
All right. So any other questions? I guess for the rest of the time, feel free just to stay here, or you can find other place to work on this project. And I will end the recording here and make the recording available.